Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that I think is kind of a sensitive topic for a lot of people in the LPOT community.
Yeah.
And that's loneliness.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where I think,
Right.
there are some people in the community who are very open about it.
Huh.
And others who I think it's a little bit harder for them to even
Yeah.
talk about.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, even within a supportive community like this,
Yeah.
that we still see that spectrum
Yeah.
of comfort levels with, bringing this up.
Yeah.
It really speaks to how deeply ingrained the stigma around it is,
It's just like it's almost like we're conditioned to think that it's like a personal failing rather than just this, universal human experience.
Totally. And in fact, it's nobody chooses to be lonely.
Right.
Right? The causes of loneliness are incredibly diverse.
Yeah.
You could be, talking about life transitions, like moving to a new city or losing a loved one, or societal factors like increasing social isolation.
Right.
Or, the pressure to project a perfect image online.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting is we did that survey last month of the LPOT community, and it was something like 42% of our members had said that they had felt lonely at some point in the past year.
Absolutely.
Which is like, almost half of the community.
That's huge.
And they all had very different reasons for it. It was all over the map. So I think it just goes to show that it really does not discriminate.
Absolutely.
So I think that, the mission of this deep dive is to kind of look at why we avoid talking about this, why we should be talking about this, and how we can do a better job of supporting each other within LPOT and beyond.
It all starts with recognizing that silence perpetuates the stigma.
Yeah.
If we never talk about it, it remains this shadowy, shameful thing.
Yeah, it's like sweeping it under the rug.
Exactly.
Pretending it's not there. But like the more you sweep it under the rug, the bigger the pile gets.
That's right, the bigger the pile.
And then it's harder to ignore.
Yeah. And a study from UCLA actually found that simply acknowledging feelings of loneliness can actually reduce their intensity.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, letting light into a dark room.
Yeah.
It doesn't magically make the room disappear, but it does make it feel less scary and overwhelming.
Yeah, less daunting.
Right.
So if talking about it helps, why are we so hesitant to do it?
Right.
Aside from like the fear of judgment.
Well, part of it is we're not taught how to have these conversations.
Oh, that's interesting.
We grow up in a culture that prioritizes positive emotions while dismissing, negative ones.
Like sadness or...
Yeah. Sadness, fear, loneliness, all of that.
So we just bottle it up.
Yeah.
And then that just makes it worse.
Exactly. It's like ignoring a warning light on your car's dashboard.
Right.
Eventually something's going to break down.
Right.
But when we create safe spaces to talk about these things, whether it's with a trusted friend, a therapist, within communities like LPOT, we can start to process those feelings and build healthier coping mechanisms.
Yeah. So how do we create those safe spaces? Because it's one thing to say, we need safe spaces.
Right.
But like, how do we actually do that?
It starts with small individual actions.
Okay.
Like next time someone shares that they're feeling lonely, resist the urge to offer unsolicited advice. Or try to fix the situation. Instead, just listen with empathy.
Yeah.
Sometimes just being heard is enough to make someone feel less alone.
What's interesting, too, is that even though loneliness feels so personal, there's research from the University of Chicago that shows that acts of kindness and compassion can actually have a ripple effect.
Wow.
Decreasing loneliness, not just for the recipient, but for the giver. And even those who are observing
That's amazing.
the interaction.
Yeah.
So
that's so powerful.
Yeah, it's really...
It highlights how interconnected we are.
Yeah.
And underscores how creating a more compassionate and supportive world can ultimately benefit everyone.
And it all comes back to this idea of like empowering the lonely.
Yes.
Like instead of shaming people for feeling isolated, we need to like equip them with the tools and the resources to build meaningful connections.
Absolutely. And part of that empowerment comes from shifting the narrative around loneliness.
Okay.
What if, instead of viewing it as a personal failing, we saw it as a signal, a call to action? Right. So instead of thinking, oh, something's wrong with me, you think, okay, I need to prioritize connecting with others.
Okay.
And then you can start taking concrete steps to do that.
Right.
Whether it's joining a club, volunteering, or simply reaching out to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while.
Yeah. It's almost like reframing it in a way that is more solution-oriented.
Right.
I like that.
And that's something we can all do, regardless of whether we're currently experiencing loneliness or not.
That's a good point.
We can all contribute to creating a world where vulnerability is met with compassion and support rather than judgment.
So true.
Yeah.
So here's something to ponder as we're wrapping up here.
Okay.
What's one small step you can take today to create a more open and supportive environment for yourself?
Yeah.
And for those around you who might be struggling silently, maybe it's reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe it's sharing your own experience with loneliness to help break the stigma.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just being more mindful of the language you use when talking about these topics. Remember, even the smallest actions can make a difference.
Absolutely.
So that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.